Right, so this video is about me discovering something, and so I was sent this by Loaded for Bear, the chap who makes my cables, and he said, could you check out this boost pedal, let me know what you think. And I decided I'd do a video kind of discovering what it is that boost pedals do for me. So probably like some of you, maybe a boost pedal to me, you know, like this one knob kind of thing, seems like something to me that is probably fairly easy to make and probably fairly easy to make a profit on. I'm not necessarily sure that there's a massive need for one in my rig. So that was my thought anyway. And oftentimes though, I see people using like a tube screamer with the drive way down, or like a clon with the drive way down, you know, these sorts of things. And those guys are essentially using these as boosts. Most of what they're doing is just engaging the level to boost the tone, or the level of your guitar. Maybe they're doing a bit of tone shaping, like in the case of a tube screamer, you've got a bit of a mid push and a bit of high end roll off, but you're not really engaging the diodes much at all. And especially on a clon, if you're not running the drive, you're not really engaging the diodes much at all either. And so for each of those people that are using that to boost the level into an amp or whatever they're doing, I figure you're kind of doing the job of a boost. And in most cases, not most cases, I don't know, in some cases maybe a transparent boost or, you know, transparent drive, what they're really looking for would be a boost pedal potentially. I've just discovered, playing with the Vox AC15, I can totally see why you'd want one of these. I think the earliest kind of example of this type of circuit was a treble booster, which came out, and they were used into things like Voxes to push them into kind of a more driven territory. I think Electro Harmonics then brought out a boost pedal which was more of a flat kind of frequency, which I think this is more, this is an FET based boost. And I think the idea is that it's boosting all frequencies, not just like a mid hump and not just like a low end or not just a high end. It's kind of boosting the whole signal. So the idea, and I think this is what I've just kind of discovered now, although it's probably something that I've been told before but never really known for myself, is that into a single channel or low headroom amp, this thing can totally bring an amp to life and can really bring the whole thing to a different level. So the Vox AC15, I love the sound of this, versus a high headroom like Lone Star, Mesa Boogie Lone Star, 100 watt clean. If I'm playing that just clean and I chuck the boost in front of it, it just makes everything way louder and doesn't do a whole lot. However, if I put it into the driven channel of the Lone Star, with strap pickups I can't always get that much gain out of the Lone Star, even with the gain all the way up. But once I'm already clipping the amp, I can engage this boost pedal and it does take me into more of that driven territory and does something closer to what I like that it's doing on the Vox AC15. So I think with a lower wattage amp, something like a Vox AC30 and AC15, these kind of amps, I can totally see why you might want a boost pedal. So let me share that with you and see what you think. Let me know if you've got uses of a boost pedal that I've not thought of. There's probably a ton of them. Things that you like to do with a boost pedal, or that other, you know, guitarists do with a boost pedal. I'm pretty sure you could also use it in conjunction with another drive pedal. So if I was using the Lone Star, I could put the tube screamer and put the boost in front of the tube screamer to get a more tame response from the boost pedal, because this would kind of compress and drive before the front of the amp. So that might be something else that I should investigate. But on with the video. So this is my first time turning on this particular boost. This comes from Loaded for Bear, who make the cables that I use. John from Loaded for Bear is a great guy, family guy, and he sent me this pedal to check it out and asked if I check it out. So I decided I'll do a video about boost pedals, as I've not really had much experience with the boost pedal. If I'm honest with you, I sort of thought that they're sort of a one-trick pony. Put it on and it boosts the signal, so it makes things louder or something like that. So I'm plugging into a Vox AC15 right now and it sounds like this. And what happens if we turn on the boost pedal? Let's find out. So as we increase this gain, you know, that's all you've got to do with a boost pedal. You've got kind of one knob, use it. So I'm starting to think maybe all of this talk about sort of transparent drives and this sort of thing, and you know, people using a tube screamer with the level off, maybe a boost pedal is actually potentially more what people might need for this particular job. So what I'm hearing there as I engage that, pushing the valves way harder, so this is the Vox AC15, I'm essentially giving myself a second channel here. So here's my clean again, you know, pretty clean. And as the tubes and stuff get more squishy and more compression, I'm also noticing that the mids are jumping out as well anyway. So it doesn't have to necessarily just be a subtle effect. So what I'm thinking is, one of the potential uses, of course, you can use it to just push your amp into further overdrive. So that's your kind of typical use. You go in, okay, I'm going to be playing my part. And then I kick in my boost to goose that over. I can use that to kind of differentiate between parts. You know, it's giving me another tone, or maybe, you know, if you're jumping up to like a higher part, you could put that on for some more. If you know you're going to play something delicate, with the boost you could play even more delicately and be sure that you're going to be heard. Most obvious use I can think of is like if you're deciding, okay, I'm going to take a solo, and you have your main kind of tone. Especially if you've got an amp which has the headroom to take you into that solo territory, and then you go, okay. And you know, the boost can take you there, and you know, if you've got it even more gained up, depending on the type of amp that you've got. So if you had like a 100-watt amp, like a Mezzo Boogie Lone Star, maybe I'll do a demonstration of this. The boost is going to have a way different effect than if you use it with a low headroom amp like the Vox AC15, or for instance if you're playing it into a drive channel versus into a clean channel. So into a clean channel, a boost is going to do more of a job of kind of pushing the volume up. Into a driven channel, you're going to basically get closer to that clipping, so that what you play generally is going to clip more once you engage the boost. As I say, with this Vox AC15, because it's an amp that wants to get to that clipping fairly quickly, because it's a fairly low wattage amp, then we can take it into this nice kind of driven tone. The other kind of main thing that I can think that you might want to do with this, I think this is a Paul Gilbert kind of trick, is to have your main tone as the boost on. And that's how you would dial in things with your boost on. And then when you want to come to your clean part, and then you get back to your kind of main tone. You know, depending on the style of music you're playing, your driven tone might be your more important one, so you'd be thinking about your boost as more of an always on kind of thing. I think this is an FET based boost, which is the sort of thing they actually use in the Dumble ODS and the Steel String Singer. It might be a good idea there. So I'm going to try it in the Lone Star now. So we're now plugged into the Lone Star, and here's the clean. And when we engage the boost, so I can tell basically what's happening is I'm getting way more boost into the front of this amp, as it's just basically pushing up our general level rather than giving us much more gain. It's kind of a level boost because it's not pushing the amp into that compression, and there's not much clipping on this channel anyway, so we're just getting a push way into that headroom, so it's just making the thing way louder. Because we got this amp has way more dynamic range. Essentially it works sort of like a volume control more than like you know, adding drive, unless you get up really kind of. So in this case I can totally understand why you might want something more like a tube screamer, or you know, more like a Princeton tone, or you know, a blues breaker type pedal, something that isn't just boosting but is also adding an amount of clipping. It makes much more sense here because essentially, as you can tell from that, I just get louder and louder. To the point where I'm not really introducing much clipping at all, it's just making everything loud, and that possibly isn't going to be doing the same thing that I'd be wanting from something like a tube screamer, or, you know, when I talk about, you know, trying to introduce some drive to a Lone Star, I don't even any kind of high wattage clean amp. I think the boost is probably not your best bet for that, unless you're looking for just to boost the volume. If you're looking to add things like compression, touch sensitivity, and maybe a bit of drive, then I think in this case a tube screamer might be a better bet. Because as you can see, once we put it all the way up, I'm not sure it's doing tonally anything we particularly dig with that particular amp. So that's so I think you can see there for sure that it's having a way more pronounced and possibly, I think, even more positive impact on the tone with that lower output amp, that lower wattage amp, the Vox AC15. We got less headroom, and what the boost pedal is doing with that amp is taking us from clean territory way past the point of clipping into some really nice overdrive tones. With the Lone Star, we're not getting that same impact at all. We're just actually making our amp considerably louder, to the point of being, you know, too loud. By the time we get any clipping, we're way past halfway. And I think that's something that's important for someone like me, who's new to boosts, to know about a pedal like this. If you're plugging it into a clean amp, then you need to bear in mind the sort of impact that's going to happen. So if I switch over to the Lone Star driven channel, then I imagine we're going to get a slightly different impact. So here's our just the drive channel. And now it's having way more of a closer effect as it was with the Vox. We're taken from this kind of soupy overdrive into a more driven tone, and in quite a pleasing way. So you could think about the boost as being a tool which can kind of help your amp to do more of the things that your amp wants to do. So if your amp is wanting to clip, you could use this boost pedal to push you closer to that kind of clipping, and, you know, get those valves working harder, especially if you're going into something that is lower headroom or is on the edge of clipping anyway. Then I think the boost is a really important tool for that sort of thing. Also, I think it could be an ideal tool for, you know, someone using a Strat single coils like me, who maybe doesn't have tons of output coming out of their pickups, and so in some cases it might be fairly hard to get like a super driven tone out of the Lone Star. So for instance, the drive is up full on my Lone Star like that, and I'm not getting a lot of kind of gain out of it. I could use a boost and get way more gain. And get that amp working harder. So a few little ideas there maybe.